We've got Mr. Frank Ehiosu, an author, a public affairs analyst, and also too a policy expert when it comes to policy issues in the country. Mr. Frank, you're welcome to the program this morning on our TV. Okay. All right. So we're going to be meeting Money Mike Modesty, who is a Labour devotee. He's going to be calling in to the program from Ilorin this morning via the Zoom, so that he can also join us on the show as we get along. Now, Mr. Frank, the issue of Labour and federal government is almost a situation whereby not until we get to the last of it now, we really cannot say uhuru. Now, some few weeks ago, we saw the issues that, happened in Imo State, and of course, that's cascaded into some other issues. Now, just only yesterday, we understand that the Labour, NLC, and of course, the federal government is, putting things together, putting modalities together, plans together to start the issue of the living wage in Nigeria. We're not more talking about the minimum wage now. It has to be a living wage, a wage that can actually take, Nigerians. You close at the end of the month, you get your salary, you earn your salary, then it becomes a living wage. Now, give us an insight. When we talk about living wage in the country and the rate of survival, how does it, hit you? How does it pinch you? Let's start from there.
Wow. It's quite a line of discourse. However, I don't know how to put it, but I'm taking a bag.
You don't know where to start from, whether to say
the challenge is that when somebody is, okay, let me put it this way. If somebody is drowning in a swimming pool, somebody fell into a swimming pool, it's not quite some adult task for a lifesaver to help the person out. But if the person is drowning in an ocean, the challenge becomes so much more cumbersome with reference to expertise, resort to technology and all whatnot to be able to get the person rescued. That's why I said I'm taking a bag, because where we are is unfortunate. To even rate it is a bit of a challenge. I perused some documents a few days ago, and they listed countries in Africa where pay was comparative, as in relative to their income or their revenue, as the case may be. Out of 20 countries listed, Nigeria was not there. And Nigeria is called the giant of Africa. Now, on that list, you had Libya. You have countries that you compare to a state in Nigeria. It is said that Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa. Of course, some people say that the concept of being giant of Africa is coterminous with the Kami 2.4 series. If you know what I mean. I don't want to mention
big cars on the streets and all that.
You said?
I said the big cars on the streets.
No, it's not a big car on the street. You know what Nigerians call Kami 2.4?
What is it?
Big for nothing. That's why I said
I try to say that the country is big for nothing.
No, the country is not big for nothing per se. I just said that the perception is such that in size, biggest economy. Presently, there are countries in Africa that pay in dollar terms, or dollar equivalent, as much as up to $300 per month or even more. But if you want to exhibit Nigerian minimum wage, as it were, in dollar terms, since that's the most recognized universal currency.
The
Nigerian worker at the present minimum wage of 30,000 is earning less than $30. Now, compare that person with a kid working in some firm in the UK. That's the money that somebody working in the UK receives maybe about 2 hours or 3 hours.
A situation where you have $15 per hour. Like some of our brothers, outside the shores of the country, they give us feedback here. They tell us that they receive $15 per hour. So 2 hours is $30.
Somebody would labor in this country from morning till dusk
for 30 days.
For 30 days, and that is not where the sad story ends. As we are here seated, there are some states in Nigeria where they still have local governments that operate minimum wage of 7,500 naira. Presently, minimum wage was increased to 30,000 in 2019. Some states took more than 2 years 3 years. In fact, by relevant data, there are still some states where there is no true implementation presently, talking about the 30,000 minimum wage. So that's why I said, if you say we are aiming for a living wage, I compared it to a case of like trying to rescue a man that is drowning in an ocean without the requisite expertise and technology to so do. That is the kind of fate I have with the negotiation that will go on between the NLC and the federal government. You know, the law as it is such that the revenue, minimum wage is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. That's why, in real terms, they will commence the review properly in 2024, since the last one was in 2019. And before 2019, the last time it was done was in 2011. You know, Nigerian government, I don't want to say they're above the law, but things go on the way they do. Then it was raised up to 18,000. So, as the country is presently, even the 100,000 naira that they are projecting, say between 100 and 200,000, if we do some comparative analysis with reference to the dollar, taking it as universal currency, what does 100,000 amount to? About, by the current exchange rate, less than $100.
Maybe a bag of rice at the end of the month, then some few items.
So you now imagine how Nigeria live. It is a contradiction that is, I don't want to say infinitely irreconcilable, because we have to possibly reflect some sense of hope. Even if hope, they say, has not changed anybody's situation, it is action taken that makes the difference.
Okay, now let's try to get the Labour devotee, Money Mike Modesty, to also speak on the issue, because this matter really has to rest with Labour. It's a good one to know that the situation is something that everybody is going to key into at the end of the day, because as we speak now, we really don't know what will eventually become the living wage, if it is 100,000 naira as minimum living wage. All right, so yes, hello there, Mr. Modesty, hello. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so how is Ilori? We know that you are calling into the program from Ilori. How is Ilori this morning?
Ilori is fine.
Okay, so we want you to give us an insight now. Any moment from now, the federal government is going to be on a round table now with the organized labor on a new minimum living wage. How does it strike you?
Well, it's a welcome development. It has been long awaited since the removal of fuel subsidy, the skyrocketing of the dollar foreign exchange rate, and prior to these two that I've mentioned, the system economically has turned topsy-turvy, and the workers have been the ones suffering the greatest brunt of all the challenges. As it is, the review of the minimum wage is a matter of law. It's embedded in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that every 5 years, the wage of the country shall be reviewed. The last is 4 years plus, it's already tended toward the 5th year, and I'm sure by March the 5th year would have been due, and unfortunately, the intention to come to the round table to start negotiation became spontaneous for the fact that harder economic challenges came up as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy and the inability of the federal government to control the exchange rate, which is boomeranging terribly on all workers in the country and by implication all Nigerians. Sadly, anything we consume in this country that does not have the dollar input, and we are an oil producing nation. We live at the bank of the river. And this has a lot of implications. For the worker, you know that 30,000 is the present minimum wage. And we have 40,000 be paid as a minimum wage for the workers. Kudos to the state government. And we have the opinion that it is a long time to review, anticipating a very robust review. Because the labor leaders we have in the Federation, the NLC and the TUC, are trusted by the workers, and they should be able to sit and negotiate a living wage, not just a minimum wage, a living minimum wage. That is our expectation. We also expect that things will not wait till April before the negotiation is concluded. The cards should be put on the board Revenue, Mobilization, Allocation Commission, all of them will all be involved. State government will be involved. The local governments will be involved. It's going to be a tripartite, the labor and the employers' consultative assembly.
Yeah.
Stakeholders will meet. They are going to put on the table all the economic indices to get a minimum wage that will enhance the lifestyle of the Nigerian worker. All their dependents. You know, we live in a country whereby one working in a family, whatever he earns, shared across even the extended family members, is dependent on the worker. Home and tradition demands here. So we are believing God that this time around, get it right and correctly.
All right, so Mr. Hiosu, the budget is before the National Assembly. We do not have any aspects of that budget that reflect in any way that, okay, on the case that there's a new minimum wage, it will, contain that. Is there any sincerity of purpose in this whole talk of minimum living wage?
No, I think there is a provision for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if I recall quite, when I watched I think I read something, or watched one of the pieces where the president spoke on the reason for certain increase. It has to do with the minimum, as in the wage factor.
Okay, or maybe
I can't tell right now if it's the minimum wage. No, I think that pertains to that. They have the 35,000 additional benefits or some packages.
Okay, yeah, the one that has to do with the palliatives and all that.
It's difficult to capture it in the budget because they don't have an agreed amount yet. It's not possible to put an estimate in the budget where there is no amount marked as minimum wage yet. So I think it will be, except they want to just put, no, it's not possible. Yeah, the budget is an estimate, no doubt. So, but estimate must be anchored on certain factors that reflect certainty. So they've not negotiated. It's not been affirmed whether it's 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000. So I'm sure that when they get to that bridge, we'll cross it. Possibly.
Yeah, we're looking at the situation whereby, because for workers now, I mean, the ordinary Nigerian worker, we just feel that, okay, by April next year, maybe at most by June, July, there's going to be a new minimum living wage. So that's what we're looking at.
No, they can hit that mark.
Yeah.
I have my doubts concerning the possibility of a living wage. And I told you a while ago. Right now, Nigeria is, to speak mildly, seemingly bankrupt. Look at the budget. Okay, see the deficit component. See the revenue marked.
About 2% outside, 98% for debt servicing, only 2%. So
that's why I said Nigeria is seemingly bankrupt. Because where would the revenue come from? Right now, the challenge for upkeep as a nation in terms of basics is quite
enormous.
Enormous is even an understatement. So the possibility of living wage presently is a hard nut to crack. The only thing I think that may suffice is exemplary leadership. That's the only way government can assuage the feelings of the people, the bitterness, the suffering that folks are subject to. Because right now, except it is increased maybe by about, South Africa, for example, Nigerian minimum wage compared to South Africa. What's a Nigerian earn as minimum wage per month? Somebody in South Africa received about 7 times that.
Yeah.
So, and the government doesn't have resources to increase it to that level. The more painful side of it is the fact that government keeps saying that folks should tighten their belt, but there isn't a clear sign from the government angle that we are going through some tough times. I was personally taken aback. I still can't fathom it. I'm waiting for expert opinion that will get me convinced. The reason why such a delegation, for example, was taken to COP28. I can't fathom it. What is the benefit to this country? In the equation of climate change, Nigeria is seemingly insignificant. So how do you carry people? What is the relevance? Okay, for example, the IGP addressing COP on Nigerian police going green. Is Nigerian police, is the call unknown presently, as it were? You see, they drive on routes, even to fuel their vehicles is a challenge. You go to the average police station. I told somebody, they did a survey. They went across some parts of West Africa, and the findings were shocking. Because it's not about you speaking about what is happening in your country. This is a case of people having a first-hand experience. You just travel to Ghana, you walk into a police station, you see the kind of response you get. You travel to Benin Republic, you walk into a police station, you travel to Togo, you travel to Benin Republic, and you come to Nigeria. Apart from maybe the big headquarters that are centralized in the metropolitan cities, even in the last time I went to a police station, I wrote a statement. Somebody, I gave money to do a transaction. I mean, the person duped me in a sense. Yeah. So I went to incident the matter. I was given a sheet of paper to write my complaint. I'd barely written 2 paragraphs when the officer interjected.
That you should pay for.
And he said that they will call it bring a fire. I said, I don't understand. I said, but that's your concern. It's not my business.
You must have to open your file now.
No, he said I'm open the file. So he said the file with cement I was writing was going to cost 5,000. So I just stopped at the second paragraph. I didn't continue writing again. I said, okay, if as per the second paragraph, I mean, as per the filing of the statement, it costs about 5,000. I said, what about going to
the court?
Not in the court, to go and possibly arrest the person or go and check on the person. He said, okay, that one that I'll pay for fuel. I said, how much would that be? He said, okay, for a start, I can give them 20,000. So when he told me that, my mind went back to the last time I had a case in the police station, where I paid, the money I paid for transport, I spent about 200,000 because to get the person was almost impossible for like 2 weeks or more. I keep paying for fuel and mobilization. Between you and I, at a point, I had to go and meet OPC then in Edo State. I related with the guy, and I gave them just some little change, barely 20K.
And they got the person for...
Listen, in 2 hours, the person that the institution that's supposed to ensure law enforcement
the OPC
has been pursuing or looking for 2 weeks, they couldn't find. The OPC guys found him. Then I called me, and I called the policeman. They went to pick him.
Okay. All right. So
I'm just saying that a government is supposed to be exemplary. They chartered 3 flights to go for that coup stuff. On a conservative estimate, somebody affirmed that it may cost the country between 7 and as much as 12 and 15 billion. And I can't fathom it. And workers in this country are suffering. They earn 30,000 naira, not all. In most of the states where they will say they earn 30,000 naira, it actually applies to folks below level 7. Yeah. For those below, I mean above level 7, they use their prorated, the adjustment rate. So for in the same sphere, I think I tend to agree with people who say that those who steer the ship of state, while they live in heaven, they are okay with the citizens living in hell.
Okay. All right. So as we look at the issue one more time, I don't know whether if we ask what should be the benchmark now, because I'm trying to take a cue from the NBS recently released that the inflation for September. The inflation rate for September was 23.72%, you know, as at September. So I think for October, because I know that it has been on the trajectory, it has been on the increase. So for October, maybe for October and November now will be somewhere around 24, 25 point something percent. Now, what we are saying is, what do you think can be the benchmark that the living wage should be from? I mean, it shouldn't be below there. Looking at the economic situation in the country today.
That's a very challenging one to do. Because the good thing is that they have parameters by which they go about such a measurement. But I still maintain the fact that it's quite an Herculean task.
Yeah.
Quite a Herculean task.
Yeah.
Inflation, like you said just now, by the last MBS
release, statistical release,
27.3.
Yeah,
in fact, inflation in the country has been on the rise for almost 2 decades now.
Yeah, for
no
like
decline.
5 years.
No more than 5 years.
Yeah, steady rise.
Steady rises, no decline. This time last year, the inflation rate was a little about 21% or thereabout. So between now and that time and now, there's an increase of over 6%, and the increase is ongoing. So the minimum wage or what workers are paid have not increased all this while. So a living wage for the average Nigerian should not be less than that 200,000 that NLC earmarked initially. Even if they are not considering, they say either 100 or 200,000. But if you talk about a living wage, so that we can stand, maybe not shoulders high, in the Committee of Nations. But at least we'll still manage to say we are doing some bits to ensure that people are comfortable.
Mr. Frank, the possibility of that now, there is not just to peg it that is the issue. The possibility of attaining it is the problem. A situation whereby only 2% now, after servicing debts with about 98% of our revenue, only 2%. That 2%, what do we, is the 2% that we're going to pay salaries from? It is the 2% that infrastructural development is going to go from. So does it mean that Nigeria may just keep on borrowing? I don't know.
There was one of the Bretton Woods institutions affirmed about a fortnight ago thereabout that the rate at which things are going, if care is not taken, Nigeria may have to start borrowing money to pay interest on loans. That's it. Not a case of borrowing money to survive or to even just do basic stuff, but borrowing money to pay interest on loans, not that you're able to pay the loans. That is where we are. That's why I said just now that the government does not showcase the state of the nation, because the glamorous display of wealth and comfort. There was this president, I was listening to a program on Arise TV 2 days ago, where they said, I can't remember the name of the West African, one of the African countries, where the guy said they are not going for that meeting, the COP 28, because there are more challenging issues to address in their country. But Nigeria, the story is different. That money could have been earmarked for better purpose, for the good of all and sundry. I started by saying that I don't have much faith in the possibility, because if we are to go by predictions, according to Patrick Henry, he said, I have no means by which I can predict the future, but by events of the past. But if you go by events of the past, in the past 5 years or more, Nigerian debt to revenue has been terrific. Sorry, not terrific, terrible. Because terrific will make it seem as if it could be good on some note. Has been terrible. And how will it change? There's in the case, nothing is happening to indicate such. I told you just now that there's a state in Nigeria where local governments still have minimum wage. Of about 7, and some agencies, 7,500 naira as minimum wage. The average worker, if you want to, somebody working in, let's say this is an agency of government, somebody working here coming from, say, New Benin, the transport the person will spend presently.
No, we are all experience it now. I mean, a situation whereby you buy a liter of fuel for like 670 naira for a liter of fuel. So I don't know. So I don't know if you ask other people what should be the living wage. It should even be above 500,000. You know, on a monthly basis. If you have to put your penny together every money you spend as a living, used to calculate your living wage, we're talking about from 500,000 monthly. So the question is, even if the government at the end of the day says that, okay, the government can, try to pay, what about the private sector?
It's just the private sector, even state government, because most of the time when such negotiations are done, the immediate benefit accrues to those within the federal system. So many state governments normally handicapped. It complain about paucity of funds. Till date, you look at Benue State, look at Taraba State, look at a number of states that to implement agreement they have with NLC over this 30,000 minimum wage that has been approved for 4 years plus now is still between Deva and the DWC. No implementation presently. So that's why I said it's unfortunate. And for me, the remedy, I affirmed earlier, it was Abbaswez that said that example is not the main thing that influences others. But example is the only thing that influences others. Government, in this case, has not reflected such example.
They don't live by example.
If you look at even the cabinet, we thought that there would be difference. But from the inception of this administration, the Executive Council right now we have is the largest, not just in the Fourth Republic, but in history. And for every minister you appoint, there are 8, there are as in concomitant factors that accompany the job schedule and whatnot, that would incur so much cash flow from the system. So that's why I say the government has not led by example. Secondly, in this stream of poverty, the Nigerian presidency still maintains and services 10 aircraft.
Well, you cannot say that, except maybe if you just take that as your opinion. I mean, you are not an aide to.
I'm not an aide to the president. It's in the public domain. It was more than that before. But he said he was going to sell it off. Nigeria is a wonderful country. When Buhari was campaigning, you know, he won't complain. He said, what are they doing with all those presidential jets and whatnot? He made reference to some countries where they use the normal flight that the citizens use. But he was there for 8 years. It was only 2 he put on sale. He wanted to include cargo. Unfortunately, it was only, they couldn't sell any of them. He now gave to the Nigerian Air Force. That's why he reduced to 10. They have 10 presently.
All right, so I think we'll just hold it there. I thought we should be able to get back to Money Mike Modesty, but because of connectivity issue, we couldn't do that. We just hope and pray that some other time we should be able to get Money Mike Modesty into the program as we get along. All right, so I think that will be from Benin now, except if we have 1 or 2 things to add to what we've said. We've said it here.
Yeah, there are so many things to be said.
Living minimum wage is something that we cannot.
I was talking about government being an example. I don't make reference to just one point concerning a presidency that says that we are poor. We are assuming the pool of penury. Yet is maintaining 10 aircraft. The cost of that stuff is in billions on a yearly basis. In the midst of this poverty, if you know the vice president's resident in Abuja is more palatial than. In fact, if they tell some people that they should go there and looking forward to going to heaven, they may adopt it. Yet, they are marking how many billion to do innovation.
To renovate it.
That is just a few among many. That showcases the fact that why the government says that we should tighten our belts, they are assuming in the pool of abundance as if the world does not even know what is happening.
At the expense of the people. Yeah.
That's the sorry state of the situation.
All right, so once a very big thank you, Mr. Frank Ehiosu, for joining us on the program today, this morning on ITV. And the talks is only just starting. Yesterday, we saw members of the organized labor, trying to come together and start talking with the federal government. Now, the issue of minimum wage in the country is something that it cuts across all facets. It affects everybody because we are all interested. Now, Mr. Frank Ehiosu is not a labor devotee, but he is interested. I mean,
of course,
he has to be interested because
every Nigerian is affected.
Every Nigerian has an interest in minimum wage in the country because we all have to start suggesting. Because for the fact that we feel, we wear the shoe, we know where it pinches, so we should begin to talk to authority involved, the government, so that whatever they are trying to negotiate with labor, a time will come, as a matter of fact, that they are going to start taking opinion from members of the public now. You want to say more?
Yeah, there was a point I emphasized earlier. I just want to reaffirm it. Yeah. That amidst the uncertainty, there is no clarity to the extent that there can be anything different anytime soon. That's why I said the only thing government can do is to lead by example. Because the people are going through so much, it is almost impossible to assuage their feelings.
Yeah, perhaps we may say that the government is still young.
Young? It's about 6 or 7 months old.
I know.
Every step taken so far indicates the direction in which they are headed. As we are here seated, there's a piece that I perused not too long ago where they talked about the fact that out of about 36 terminals, we're talking about the crude oil, either exploitation or stealing by the side. They have barely 20 that have meters. The president has been there for 7 months. Has that issue been addressed? The stealing of crude oil is going on in leaps and bounds till date. Yeah. So the major issues that pertain to what is ongoing have not been addressed. Now look at it. Why you say you can't pay workers 30,000 minimum wage? Check out the whole of West Africa and Africa at large. In Nigeria, in the past past decade, almost all the accountant generals of the federation have been held to fraud in the tune of billions of naira.
So in other words, there is excess.
That is the point. The last one, how much is he accused of stealing? Over 100 billion naira. The one before him, there was a case. The one before him. So that speaks to the fact that leakages don't exist because they came into being. Leakages exist because the system allowed them to be, because people enjoy it. And government has not chosen to block such leakages. I am saying that the only way government can attempt to assuage the people, like Delano Roosevelt did in the US, in the Great Depression in the late 30s, things were tough. But when people saw that the government was exemplary, they saw that the president was living within a profit that they could construe. They could bear their suffering. But people find it difficult to bear suffering when they see those who say they lead them living in heaven, and they tell them to bear the heat of hell, as if life is different for them as it is for those up there.
Yeah.
So I'm saying very clearly, the only solution, the only hope in my opinion, because even if Nigeria goes to borrow $100 billion, it will not quite alleviate the situation presently. It will take time. So discipline, example by government, is the only thing that can make people bear the suffering and feel that we're all together in the process. Why change happens with time.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Frank here. So Abuja should be waiting now for the second segment as we ride on the program this morning. Yes, this morning on ITV. So let's go over to Abuja now so that we'll take talking about rent in the FCT now. Rent is going up in Abuja. There's no doubt about that. All right. So Abuja seems not to be ready. But I think because the issue of rent, is almost a national issue now. It's not only in Abuja, even in Benin here. A friend of mine told me that he just received a notice, from his landlord 2 days ago, that with effect from January 1st, 2024, his rent has been increased with about 80,000 naira. Now, the biggest challenge that he has is that his salary has not been increased in any way. So he really doesn't know how to bridge that gap. Now, these are the situations that Nigerians find themselves. I don't know. I mean, you are increasing rentage with 80,000 naira when the salary of that individual is not also going to be increased by that margin.
That is the unfortunate scenario that we find ourselves.
Yeah.
You see, if blame should be put where it belongs, just like the policy of the federal government, people were excited, some persons, or most people possibly, that subsidy was removed. That subsidy is not right for the country. Yeah. Unfortunately, the challenge of subsidy is such that it is not subsidy in itself, but the subsidy management. Yeah. So my pain, like I normally say, government in Nigeria finds it very difficult to take decisions and make the people suffer.
So are you saying now that the subsidy removal, they are still not managing what was being used?
No, if management is to be given the pride of place, it will be a case of investigating how the money has been managed all these years. That is the truth. Saudi Arabia, the number one oil country in the world, they still operate subsidy. We can mention 10 countries right now that have subsidy in this same oil sector.
Yeah, the federal government did that, and of course they came up with the idea that there was really nothing like subsidy. That some cabals. That was the word of the federal government.
No, that wasn't. It's not federal government that said so. Yeah. It was APC government. APC before they came into
federal government.
That was what they were saying.
I don't know whether it's APC. The federal government told us. I mean, that's what even the APC. That's what they are saying now. That there was really nothing like subsidy.
No.
Yeah.
There's always been subsidy. The only people that used to deny were those outside the system. Buhari used to deny it, but when Buhari became president, Buhari was the first person that removed subsidy in this. Let me not say in this Fourth Republic. He removed it because Obasanjo subsidy has been removed a number of times.
Yeah, but it wasn't really backed up by law. But
no, which law back up this one? That
I mean, the Petroleum Industry Act and all that.
If you go by the Petroleum Industry Act, when was it passed? How many times was it shifted in terms of implementation?
But eventually it was passed.
Now, see my point. Buhari removed subsidy in May 2016. After a year in office. It was a public broadcast. When he came to power, fare was 87 naira per litre. Just how Jonathan left it. He increased it by almost 100%. He said subsidy had been removed. But unfortunately, what he did was increasing the price of the product to be at par with international benchmark without touching the variables that determine how the price changes. Yeah. Because it did not liberalize the downstream sector. So that price increase was okay for a while, until all of a sudden, the international price of crude oil went up. Because once crude oil price goes up, it affects the price of other products that flow there from. Yeah. So when that happened, the same Buhari removed subsidy. He couldn't come to tell Nigerians that they should come and pay something more than 145 naira. That is when they started what they call under recovery. Yeah. So what we are paying for presently as a nation is the incompetence of government. Government doesn't think through processes. It's very shameful. Even the harmonization of the liberal the exchange rate. So many experts have said that you shouldn't have done this stuff suddenly. The Bretton Woods institutions that have been praising the government to toe that line. 1 month after the government made the policy, they came out to say that the government doesn't have the capacity to back it up. Yeah. But before the government did it, they were saying government should do it. So there seems to be a deficit in critical thinking. Because you must think of things from the standpoint of the short term, medium term, and long term.
Yeah, but for a country like Nigeria that does not produce, don't you think the best thing is to liberalize exchange rate and all that?
Now, a country that does not produce is at the mercy of anything in terms of that liberalization.
That's what we're saying.
No, a country does not produce, you become a victim of all.
So what are you saying that
because you depend on others?
That automatically we should start producing?
Were we not producing before? This is a nation where, as recently as the 70s, 80s, we had how many, even when Obasanjo became president, the additions at that time, go and check the kind of vehicles you're using.
Yeah, Mr. Frank,
I'm just saying something.
That's not going to be automatic again, because we have issues with power. We have issues with insecurity and all that. So
who caused it?
Well, you and I don't know how to say.
No, not you and I.
The government caused it.
Which policy have you made? In what capacity? How can I change anything in those states? The only thing I can do is to share my viewpoint that may convince a few persons, and will maybe with other people's viewpoints saturate the system to a point where there can be due pressure on those who steer the ship of state to take decisions. It is a very long analogy, very, very long analogy, to be putting blame on followers when they don't have a seat in the table where decisions are taken. We didn't cause it. Were you consulted before the policy on something was removed? Who is responsible for manning the borders to ensure that products are not smuggled? Saudi Arabia, they reviewed their subsidy policy in 2015, not because products were being smuggled, because the state is functional. The state had the force of coercion to ensure that such does not happen. It's the Nigerian state that failed, that made it possible for people to be crossing the border. And you now want to make the people suffer for the incompetence of the government. That is where we are. We see what was on Channel TV yesterday morning. There was this guy, he was a former MD of the Port Harcourt Refinery. He was equally MD of Refinery. He was there in the late 80s, early 90s. In fact, he said they were the ones that built it. He was involved in supervision. He said something that was very shocking. He said the refinery that federal government is renewing presently, there is not renovation, there is reconstruction. When the guy gave some technical details, I'm waiting for NLC to come and respond to it.
That the federal government is not doing the right thing now?
No, he said that refinery that government is renovating, it has not been used for more than 40 years. He said they built a new one, the one that has higher capacity. He said that was the one that they were been using, that was producing optimally.
Anyway, let us know.
Now, really I'm just going by the fact that the anomalies that makes the system get worse, rather than the government taking decisions that will make things work. The guy said that by the technology in that place, the capacity of that refinery is about 60,000 liters. So he's wondering why government is spending 1.5 billion to work on a project that government itself, the expert in the system, left unused for about 4 decades. Because he said the capacity as it were then, it can only produce, if you put in fuel, what you get out because of the construction that was there is about 20% of fuel. He said, but the new one that they constructed, that was in the early 90s, now that one you can get out about, I think about 45 or 50% of fuel. Yeah. Now, he indicted the NNPC. He said that they showed that the president possibly does not know, but people just say that they should do that. There are so many things ongoing, leakages have not been blocked, people are not held to account. Subsidy till today, nobody has been held to account. Well, I'm saying in public domain.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Just let me, with this last statement.
Yeah, time.
Between 1999 and where we are presently, the money that has been spent on turnaround maintenance is estimated to be close to $27 billion. Who is held to account?
And nothing is achieved.
In other crimes, when you give somebody a job to do, there are terms of reference. There are contractual details that ensure that you can be held to account. Yeah. But here we are. The government cannot hold those who make a mess of the country to account, but they can punish all of us for what they are not able to address.
Mr. Frank, we want to say very big thank you for finding time. I know why you feel so emotional about these things. Just like what I said a while ago, that you and I will have a role to play. We have a major role to play.
Very minimal role, not major role.
You may say minimal, but major.
No, in the hierarchy of affairs of men.
Yeah, we're not talking about you and I. We can't be in government, I know, but in our own little small ways as followers, we can also try to always begin to engage them.
And I'm sure you are doing it.
Like what you are doing now, so that they know that what they are doing is not right. So that's why I said we have a major role to play. All right, so that's the talk show segments on the program this morning.